We always hear about eating well and exercising regularly because it has so many benefits for our body. But it seems so easy for us to fall back into our unhealthy habits. And I feel like the reason behind this, for some people at least, is because that's all we know. We know better than to fall back into these habits, but it's not common knowledge why having a healthy diet and exercising can actually benefit our body. And so that is exactly what I want to dig into today. The true impacts of diet and exercise. So just a bit of background on me. I'm really interested in health, and I did a TED Talk in 8th grade on diet and nutrition. And I learned a lot there, and I also did a science fair project last year on neurodegenerative diseases. And I stumbled upon the impact that your diet and your fitness actually has on the development of those diseases. And I thought that was pretty cool, and it kind of strengthened my desire to keep looking into the whole thing about health and eating food and exercising and how important it is in your daily life. And so that's how I got here. And I'm really excited to talk about this today. So, start off by talking about diet. If you think about it, you really are what you eat, because we eat food in order to gain energy. Energy for our daily functioning, for our cells, for me moving my hand right now, and nutrients for our 37 trillion cells in our body. And those nutrients are divided into 6 major groups: water, fat, protein, minerals, carbs, and vitamins. And of those 6 groups, 3 of these are also macromolecules. And these are also known as biomolecules because these carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and nucleic acid make up all living things. And so these are essential for us to get, and that is why our body needs to break them down and absorb them in our food. And it does that by breaking, most of these are like chains. So our body breaks down the chain into smaller pieces that we can actually absorb, and they become these things here, and our body can repurpose them to make new cells or make new proteins or whatever we need in the moment. So that's done through our digestive system, which is pretty amazing. And most of the absorption is done in our small intestine. So if we take a closer look, it is divided into 3 parts. The first part is the duodenum. That's where most of our digestion occurs. The second part is the jejunum. That's where most of the absorption occurs. And the last part is the ileum, before the large intestine starts. And that is where we absorb important vitamins. So if we zoom in on the duodenum, we can see our food is going to come in through here where this purple arrow is. That's our esophagus. It's going to come in here to our stomach, and it's going to sit there until it's ready to go be digested further. So this stuff here in our stomach, it's called chyme. It's a partially digested food waiting to be fully digested by the duodenum. And how the duodenum is going to do that is it's going to use the bile from the gallbladder here. It's going to come down this green tube. It's going to use enzymes from the pancreas, which is this yellow thing back here. And it is also going to use brush border enzymes that already sit on this little curvy wall there in the duodenum called the brush border. And it will break down that chain like I mentioned earlier so that we can absorb those nutrients in our jejunum. And inside, our small intestine looks like this. In the jejunum and the ileum, these are called villi. And on these villi, there are also microvilli. And so one individual one looks like this, and that is how we can absorb our nutrients. Our nutrients are going to enter this capillary here, this blue capillary, and they're going to go to our liver. Some of them are too big, so like some of the fats have to go to this lacteal, and they will go through a lymphatic vessel to our veins, and then they'll be recirculated in our heart and pumped around our body. So those nutrients that went through that capillary, they go through this portal vein, and that goes to the liver, like I mentioned. And this is where our liver is going to metabolize or store those nutrients. And so what this is, this hexagon-like thing, is this is a portion of the liver. So all these hepatocytes or liver cells, they are sucking in and they're gaining all of the nutrients from the portal vein from all of these sides here so that they can store or build up new materials or break down materials, and that's the whole job of the liver, main jobs of the liver. So the liver is made up of a bunch of these hexagons, and there's so many things going on at once. And then when those nutrients are absorbed, the rest of the blood, the oxygen-poor blood and the nutrient-poor blood, will go to the central vein to be recirculated into the heart and get oxygen and nutrients again. And the process repeats. So our body has optimal levels for everything, and the blood glucose level that our body likes to have is between 70 and 100 milligrams per deciliter. So that's just a portion, like an amount per a certain concentration of our blood. So what happens if we go above that optimal level? What's going to happen is a lot of things that you might hear happens when you eat too much sugar. So you will gain weight, damage your blood vessels, it'll mess with your hunger, cause cavities, and that leads to an increased risk of diseases like heart attack or stroke, or diseases with your heart like coronary artery disease. And the way that this happens, let's talk about weight gain first. So everything that we eat either gets burned or converted. And in the case of sugar, we use sugar to get energy. So if we don't need the energy at that moment, then our body's not going to burn all of the sugar we just ate. Like if I just ate if I ate 6 donuts, I'm only talking, I'm sitting down and I'm talking. I'm not doing some vigorous exercise or anything. So I'm not going to need all that sugar I just ate. So my body is going to convert it into fat to be stored. And you can see if you eat a lot of sugar that you don't really need, or your body doesn't think that you need to be using in the moment, it's going to convert a lot of it to fat. And that's how sugar causes weight gain. Also, when we eat a lot of sugar, the liver is going to convert. This happens in the liver. So it's going to be converted to glycogen, which is the fat in the liver. And our body's going to react to this surplus of sugar by going into something called glycogenesis. And that is where our pancreas is going to secrete more insulin to get all of this extra glucose out of our blood vessels, because we don't want it in there. So then it's going to go back to the liver, like in the last slide. The liver is going to convert it to fat, and it will be sent off to wherever it needs to be. But you're going to have all that extra sugar being turned into fat. And what also happens to increase that even more is lipogenesis. So that's turning glucose into triglycerides, which is a type of fat. And you can see your body really wants to turn all your extra sugar into fat here. So you're going to gain a lot of weight if you're eating excess sugar that your body doesn't think it needs. And where this fat goes, a lot of it goes to your adipose tissue. This is the tissue like around your skin. So the top part here, that's like your hair, the hair on your skin. And this is the stuff underneath, and that's where the fat stores energy or stores vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins, and stuff like that. So the fat is not water-soluble, which is why the liver creates these little lipoprotein blankets to go around the fat to surround it so it doesn't clump up while it's being transported in the water or anything like that. And the way that the fat is transported is through these low-density lipoproteins. So you need some of these because your body needs cholesterol and your body needs fat to function. But if you have too many of these, it can clog your arteries. So a surplus or an excess amount of LDL cholesterol can clog your arteries, and that can be really dangerous because it could potentially block your arteries, and then you would be getting blood flow, and you can see where that's going. The HDL cholesterol is to clean up, in a sense, the cholesterol from your artery walls or your other cells. And so you want to have a good balance between these two. So another way that sugar impacts your health is when you eat sugar, some of it becomes energy, some of it becomes glycogen with the fat, and some of it becomes this protein here. And if you eat too much sugar, then you're going to have more of this protein naturally. And what happens is this interferes with a process, phosphorylation, where this is making more hormones that want to dilate your blood vessels. And if you have too much of this protein being created because you're eating too much sugar, this can completely knock out this process. And what actually happens is the complete opposite. So instead of dilating your blood vessels will become constricted, and you can see that creates higher blood pressure because you have less space for all the contents of your blood to flow through now, but it's the same amount as before. So it's like if you have all the cashiers open at a grocery store and it's like packed in there, but for some reason they decide to close half of the aisles down. Now you have the same amount of people, less cashiers or less aisles for them to go through, and so you can see it's going to take longer and it's going to cause like increased pressure. Another way that we have increased blood pressure is by eating too much salt. So one way that this affects our body, too much salt, is in the kidneys. Our kidneys rely on osmosis to get any excess water out of our blood. And that depends on a delicate balance between sodium and potassium in our kidneys. And if we eat too much salt to throw off that balance, our kidneys will not operate as effectively as they should be. And another major thing about eating too much salt is it will cause strain on our arteries. And the way that our arteries actually combat this is they become thicker. So now our blood vessels are smaller again. You can see them constricting because our blood vessel wall is thicker. So there's less space for the blood to flow through. Another way that sugar impacts our body is with leptin. And leptin is the hormone that regulates our hunger. So when we eat sugar, sometimes you might find that when you eat sugar, you are left wanting more. So you eat like a cookie, and then you want another cookie, and then you keep eating the cookies until you've eaten a dozen cookies. That has happened to me before. And that is because sugar blocks out leptin. And if you eat a lot of sugar constantly, you can develop a leptin resistance, and that is where your brain just doesn't recognize the leptin hormone being sent and telling you that you're full. So your brain thinks that you're hungry all the time, and that leads to overeating and weight gain. And it also leads to you being hungrier and burning less during at rest periods. So if I had a leptin resistance, sitting here, I would be burning less than a person that doesn't have leptin resistance just by being at rest. And this can lead to obesity for sure. And it's not really reversible, but if you did want to reverse it, you would get more exercise and you would sleep more. So another way that sugar can impact our health is by causing cavities. And you've probably heard about this before too. And the way that it actually works is your mouth likes to maintain a pH level of about 7. So when we eat, our mouth contains the enzymes that can break sugar down. And when sugar is broken down, the acid is released from the sugar. Not that you can taste it or anything, but it is there. And if the amount of sugar you're eating, or you're eating so much sugar all the time or just regularly in general, that your pH of your mouth drops to below 5.5, then the bacteria in your mouth attack your teeth, and that causes tooth decay. So that's where that comes from. And you can see with all of this, with the increased hunger, the damaging of the blood vessels, even the tooth decay, and all the weight gain, that this is eating sugar, especially on a regular basis or more than you need to, can seriously damage your health and increase your risk of disease, especially with the blood vessels can especially damage your blood vessels to your head, to your brain, to your heart, to your kidneys, to your extremities, and to your eyes. And that's why people with diabetes see a lot of complications in those areas. So now you might be thinking, okay, apples have sugar. So if I eat a bunch of apples, does that mean that I'm going to get all of those symptoms or all of those complications? And the answer is no, and it comes down to whole foods and processed foods. Whole foods are as far away as processed as you can get. So they're not refined. They're like natural, like vegetables and fruits or legumes. And they have natural sugars, they have fiber, and they have healthy fats, while processed foods have the opposite, added sugars, no fiber, and unhealthy fats. And we're going to dig into that right now. So added sugar, our body processes added sugar and natural sugar the same, so it can't tell the difference between them. But added sugar typically means the food is processed, and processed food typically indicates that it'll be stripped of a bunch of other nutrients like minerals and vitamins that our body needs to function at its best. And natural sugar in fruits and vegetables also comes with fiber, which is typically not in processed foods. And what fiber does is it assists digestion. So fiber can't be digested, and that way it allows more time. It'll take more time to get through your intestines. So it gives your large intestine more time to absorb water, which is really important. And that's what makes your poop solid, essentially. It's the fiber. So eating a lot of fiber is really important. And it also makes you feel more full because it's stuck in there for so long because it's not digestible. So that's like the opposite of the leptin thing you see with the sugar. When you eat sugar, you don't realize that you're full. You feel hungry all the time. But when you eat fiber and the natural sugars in apples or oranges or vegetables and stuff like that, has the opposite effect. You actually feel full. So you feel full when you are full. And foods that have fiber include celery, apples, carrots, wheat, barley, and oats. And overall, this fiber can contribute to weight loss, less risk of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome and all those things because, yeah. So unhealthy fats. Unhealthy fats are like trans fats and hydrogenated oils, and these can increase your LDL cholesterol, and that leads to clogging your arteries. That's found in fast food, shortening, frozen pizza, and butter. Then we have saturated fat. Saturated fat is acceptable in small quantities, so you don't want to be eating a lot. That's like milk, sour cream, ice cream, dark meat of chicken, coconut oil, and fatty meat like beef or lamb. The healthy fat is really good. It's like monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat. So all fat is 9 calories per gram, but eating the healthy fat is a lot more beneficial for your body than eating the unhealthy fats because these actually benefit you. Eating things like nuts, peanut butter, avocados, those are monounsaturated fats. And polyunsaturated fats are really important, like fish, sunflower seeds, or tofu, because your body cannot make those fats. So you have to eat them. Your body can make glucose out of fat. Your body can make the monounsaturated fat out of fat, but it cannot make these polyunsaturated fats like omega-6 and omega-3. So you have to eat those. And if you don't eat enough of them, it can lead to anxiety. So that's why if you depend a lot on eating fast food, you're probably not getting a lot of the omega-3s and omega-6s. So it's really important to eat polyunsaturated fats for that reason. Fat is really important. Sometimes people think that it's like you shouldn't be eating fat, but your body needs fat to function. Some of the major functions of fat are in the adipose tissue. It cushions your organs and it stores fat-soluble vitamins as well as fat, the energy in fat. It also forms the cell membrane of all 37 trillion of your cells, and it protects your neurons and other things in your body with this myelin here. And if that deteriorates, that can actually contribute to myelin or multiple sclerosis, which is not good. So now we dive into exercise really quick. Exercise is related to a lot of benefits like stronger blood vessels, reduced risk of disease, healthier skin, and strong bones and muscles, of course. But how this happens is, well, when you exercise, your heart is pumping and your lungs are working really hard. And so your heart, over time with regular exercise, your heart is going to become a lot more efficient at pumping blood throughout your system. So your heart rate is decreased because it can get all that blood out in less pumps, if that makes any sense. And it strengthens your blood vessels, so you'll be really strong, and more blood will be going to all of your body in like the same amount of time it might take more people for more pumps. More blood is also going to your brain. and it can go, that means your brain is getting more oxygen. And this one part of your brain called the hypothalamus, that is responsible for learning and memory. And that part of your brain can make its own cells. So when it has more oxygen, it makes more cells. Thanks to exercising, that actually improves your memory function and your learning. So that is a big benefit. Your brain also, when exercising, releases more serotonin, which helps boost your mood. And it adapts to regular exercise over time. When it just boosts kind of your whole functioning. Your brain is responsible for a lot in your body. So if you exercise regularly, a lot of things are going to go, you're just going to be a lot more productive. Your body is going to work better. It's going to function pretty well if you exercise regularly. And so we can see that exercise and diet play a really important role in our daily lives. We always hear that doing them is really beneficial for us. Now we can see the true detrimental effects of relying on processed foods and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that every day you need to go for a mile jog and eat only whole foods. It is okay to eat some processed foods or to treat yourself sometimes, but know that hopefully now you know, there are some essential things like those omega-3s and omega-6s you need to eat, and regulating or maintaining your body's optimal levels of food is really important too. And having exercise to balance all of that out can just help you live healthier, happier, and more productive. So hopefully you can take this through in your lifestyle. Thank you.